Who's ever heard of the Peter Principle? I always like saying it just sounds funny, the Peter Principle. But basically it says in any organization or any hierarchy, an employee or a worker will always rise to their level of incompetence. Basically what it means is that you're really good at sales, so let's move you into management. Or you're really good at being a manager, so let's move you up so you can manage the managers. And that's one of those things that happens, and a person needs to be cognizant of it. And it's something that happened to me when I was, when I was selling building supplies. I love selling building supplies because, like I said, I can sell. I love to sell. And then I had an opportunity, because I was good at that. I was offered a position as kind of a night assistant manager as well. And that's fine. I don't know why I wanted it, because it was basically just more responsibility with no more money, really, to be honest. And this is my own fault, but after I was working through the process a little bit, the boss there, he's like, I think maybe you'd be better at just being a building supply salesman. And I kind of got mad. Of course, my feelings were hurt, my pride was hurt, and I fought for it. And I said, damn it, I'm going to be a manager. And I took it, and I was damn miserable, absolutely miserable. It was awful. I took on too much. I rose to a level of incompetence because I couldn't handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. My phone would ring. I'd have 3 people on lines 1, 2, and 3 with a contractor standing outside the door, and then I'd have to go deal with other issues too because, of course, I'd rose to my level of incompetence. And could I have handled it? Could I handle it now? Maybe. Do I want to? Absolutely not. It is one of those things that unfortunately can happen to anyone, entrepreneurs or employees alike. Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's nice to see you. Thanks for dropping by. It's time for another edition of our growing Friday video series. What an awesome day it is out there. But real quick, I've got so many things on the go. If you're looking to consume my content through audio, take a minute and go by Odyssey. Right now I've been taking an entire week's content, putting it together in an audio-only format. So if you want to be able to listen to it while you drive or work or, side hustle your ass off, then check that out. Eventually I'm going to slide it over into podcast formats and features. Yeah, or podcatchers and things like that. But for now, it is what it is. And if you haven't yet, go over to toolmantim.co and sign up for the monthly newsletter. You'll see a link down there. And if you need to do any Amazon shopping or you're looking for recommendations for products and tools that I've used in my handyman business that just work and work well, check out the Today's Tools Daily Recommendation. And if you buy anything, of course, I always get a small little commission from that, and that helps to go support the content I make. So thanks, guys. So anyway, like I said, this week we're going to talk about the Peter Principle because it's something that is near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've dealt with in the past. It's something that I tend to struggle with because I tend to excel at what I do. And I'm really good at what I do, so then people think, well, you're going to be really good at doing more of what you do. And then you're going to be even more, if you're good at this, you're going to be even better. So here is a whole bunch of extra responsibilities that you don't need, don't want, because success, right? That's what happens. And this has been something that I've struggled with, and it's about knowing where your happiness level is. And when I told you my opening story about where I worked for almost a decade, and it ended kind of miserably for me because basically of the Peter Principle. And of course, a few years back when I kind of panicked and my business wasn't quite taking off, I was basically in the same position. So here I was back at another hardware store, and of course, sales, and I'm good at it. So hey, if you're good at that, maybe you should oversee people, and maybe you should be the assistant to the regional manager. No, just kidding. Anyway, but maybe you should be like an assistant manager or floor manager or whatever, and oh yeah, sure, why not, whatever. And oh, great big raise of whatever it was, of maybe $1 an hour or something. And yeah, it's been a curse to me over the years, and I'm absolutely sure that there's other people of you guys out there who have had struggles with this Peter Principle as well. And it was written by a guy, I think it wasn't fiction, but it was kind of like a parody or a parable that he wrote about hierarchy businesses where people basically rose to the level of incompetence. Because you're good here, obviously you're going to be good here. Anyway, and like I said in the opening, it can happen to entrepreneurs and it can happen to employees as well. So what do we do about it? Honestly, so here's something, and this is okay. After I get into my position as, building supplies and assistant manager, and I was miserable, I should have honestly put my tail between my legs and asked for a demotion. I'd be like, you know what? I can't handle this management end of things. And that's okay. You know what I mean? My dad had been a meat manager for decades and loved it. And then when a new corporation took over, he was miserable. And he figured the only way he was going to be able to survive until retirement was to step down. So he became the first man and lost a lot of the responsibility, lost a bit of a pay. But you know what? He was happier and he managed to drag himself kicking and screaming across the retirement line about 10 years later because he did that. And he was happier for it. And that's one of those things. If you find yourself, you've taken that leap and you're really good at something, and this I'm kind of talking to employees here, but there's principles behind it for entrepreneurs as well. If you find out you're really good at something, and so people say, "Oh, you're really good at this. You should do more of this." Well, maybe that could be the case, but maybe you don't like being management, and maybe you shouldn't have to begin with. So what do? Well, number one, like I said, we can ask for a demotion. But how does this apply to entrepreneurs, Tim? And you might be like, well, oh, Tim, you fixed my, I ran into this before, you fixed my leak in my plumbing, so you must be really good at plumbing. Do you want to do an entire bathroom renovation where you have to reroute pipes and everything underneath an entire trailer? Oh yeah, sure. And then I'm in over my head and I realize, oh my God, I'm sick to my stomach. I shouldn't have taken on this job. Just because I'm good at a small thing doesn't mean I'm good at a big thing. So that's the entrepreneurial mindset of the Peter Principle as well. People say, oh, you must be really good at this. Or they say you really are good at this, so you should do this. And of course, if you're a nice guy and you want the business and you think, well, yeah, I am, maybe I better get at it. So like I said, if you're miserable, number one, hey, ask for a demotion. Or as an entrepreneur, don't take on more than you can handle. And I know it's tough because we like money, right? And things aren't going to change if we don't make a change, if that makes sense. And like I said, that helped my dad survive that last decade, but it can be scary to make that change because, oh my God, I finally did it. I made it. I'm a successful entrepreneur who's doing these great big business jobs. And maybe you've got 12 employees and you don't love your business anymore because you've become a slave to that business because your own success, and you've hired teams. And I knew a contractor quite a few years ago that was so successful. He did incredible work. And he thought, well, if I'm doing this well with one team, I'm going to have to put together a second team. So then he had 2 crews of guys. And all he ended up having was more headaches, less money, and he didn't enjoy it anymore. So eventually, as those guys quit, he kind of phased out that second crew, went back to one crew, was making as much or more money, and he was happier. So we can't become a victim of our own success and beat ourselves up and get to a point where, oh yeah, I got to do more, and all of a sudden, oh, the Peter Principle, and you're like, yeah, Tim warned me, didn't he? And like I said, it absolutely won't get better without changing something. So here's the thing. If you want to change something, don't do what I do and just pull the plug because you're pissed off and you walk away. Do as I say, not as I do. No, anyway. What I wish I'd have done was set myself up financially, emotionally, and with other job prospects before I had a nervous breakdown and decided to pull the plug. You know what I mean? So basically what I'm saying is, if you have found yourself a victim of the Peter Principle, call this 800 number now to join a class action lawsuit. No, but what you need to do is start setting yourself up to make a move. So if you have no money and nothing saved up and you need a cushion to be able to survive for a few weeks without employment, well, maybe we should start putting together a bit of an emergency fund. Or maybe you realize, I have gotten in over my head with this business and I am busier than I want to be, and I'm really not happy. So maybe it's time to start saying no to a few jobs. You might be committed to a bunch now, but heading forward, maybe it's time to say, okay, instead of taking on 5 jobs a month, I'll take on 4 jobs a month. That's the big jobs, of course. Or maybe you absolutely maybe you hate mowing lawns. I personally love it, but maybe you hate it, but maybe it became a big thing. So what do? Either hire someone else to do the lawn mowing for you, or you stop taking on new lawn mowing customers and find someone else to do the work for you. That's the idea. And I'm not trying to be negative here, but trying to be realistic. And part of the mantra here is finding freedom and sharing success. And the finding freedom part, you're not free if you're stuck above your level of incompetence, whether you're an entrepreneur or a business person or just a 9-to-5 employee. You're not going to find your freedom there. Sometimes you got to find your freedom by stepping back or stepping down. And we're sharing our unsuccess or our failure at this point. So we share it, we got to change something in order to find our success. So here's the big thing, and I've talked about this before too, and it's sometimes we have to leave that bigger is better mindset behind. Because if I made $100,000 this year, well, 150 must be better next year, and 200 must be better the year after. But in the words of a very famous philosopher, mo money, mo problems. And that can absolutely be the case. And you might be suffering from the law of diminishing returns as well, where just because you have more money coming in, all of a sudden your expenses, you've gone up to maybe a bigger tax bracket, whatever. Anyway, so that being said, we have to leave the bigger is better mindset behind. Now, it doesn't mean that bigger can't be better. And if you're looking to build a multinational corporation with handymen in every corner of every continent, well, then bigger might be better for you. But if you're looking to be a solopreneur, something like what I do, and you realize, I really want to be successful. I want to be financially free. Great. So what's your level of that? And you don't need more than that. It's okay. When I talk about our superpowers of incremental growth, incremental improvements over time to find incredible growth, well, that's what I'm talking about. We have to have a goal in mind, whatever that might be for income or amount of jobs or whatever it is. We don't have to exceed that. It's okay. The big businesses are all out there, and if they're not showing growth every single year, they're failing. Well, that's not the way it works for us. We just need to get to a level that we're free, we're successful, we're happy, we're time independent, all of that. And when we get to there, screw Peter. Well, not really, but don't worry about him. Just say, you know what, Peter? I know your principle, and I'm not going to fall for your bullshit. But it's true, right? We absolutely need to know where that level is. We need to bring ourselves up to it. We need to recognize it before we cross over. And if we do cross over, see level 1. Ask yourself for a personal demotion. Say, Tim, you're working too hard. You need to stop working so hard. And I know that goes in the mind. It blows you away as an entrepreneur. You're like, but I'll lose all my business. My business will crash. No, it won't. I promise. It absolutely won't. You need to know where your level of success is. And this isn't something you don't start a business today and tomorrow you're like, oh, I'm too successful. Well, I guess it could happen, but it really doesn't. This is what happens after a year or 2 years of building the business, and all of a sudden you get to that point where you either take it to the next level or you're happy where you are. And then from there you work out efficiencies, and maybe you can make a little more money without working any harder. But the thing you don't want to do is cross over into that Peter Principle territory where all of a sudden I'm incompetent, and then your entire reputation can hurt. You can actually really, maybe not destroy, but you can absolutely really hurt your business simply because you're doing either too much and you can't handle it, or you're doing things you shouldn't because, well, you were better at smaller things, so why not, right? And like I said, set yourself up early on. Bad choices from the beginning will compound themselves down the road. Now, I know when you're a new entrepreneur and you're hungry for work, sometimes you'll take on stuff that maybe you wouldn't take on otherwise. And I don't mean something you can't handle, I just mean something you might not like. That's okay. But just because you do it once doesn't mean you have to do it 1,000 times. And what we're building is we are building independence. And so if you're looking to build an incredible business, an incredible financially free, time independent lifestyle for yourself, try to make the right decisions early on. And I know, I always talk about my jobs before, but that's what I know. And I remember when I started at the last hardware store I worked at, and I remember thinking, these first 2 or 3 weeks when I'm just learning, I've got no responsibility. I need to learn everything I can learn and set myself up for success. And that is absolutely what you need to do as an entrepreneur or as an employee. Because if you start compounding bad choices and taking on jobs you don't want to do and taking on responsibilities, you need to learn to say no. So make those good choices early on. Build that foundation for happiness. And it's hard, especially if this is your first side hustle that you're trying to build into a full-time gig. You're just hot and horny to find anything and everything you can to build that business. And that's okay. But too many bad choices early on can make things really tough on you. And you want to set yourself up for success as an entrepreneur. Trust me, I've been on the far end of it where I'm miserable and unhappy, and I've kind of just peeked over the top of Peter's Principle, and I've been absolutely upset. So, like I said, success. How do we know? Have an end goal. It's okay to not go any further than you want. The whole bigger is better mindset. But like I said, have an end goal in mind. Know what you want and be content with it. Know what your definition of success is. This is important. Like I said, you might need $30,000 a year to make up for the money you're let's try that again, Tim. You may need a certain amount of money to make up for what you're making working for the man right now. Okay, so say it's $30,000. Well, that might be a level of success, but I'm sure you don't want to just stay there. And maybe you do. Maybe that's absolutely all you need, all you want. But maybe you want to double that or triple that and really have some money socked away for an emergency fund and be independent. And if that's what you want, hey, cool. But know where your end goal is in mind. You might not know the journey of getting there, and you'll get a little better with time as you go on, but absolutely have an end goal in mind, and that will help you make those right choices. That'll help you head in the right direction, and it'll help you say no to things that don't necessarily line up with that goal. Because I'm telling you, as an expert on this, as an expert of taking on too much, number one, it's so easy in a business because you have, or in a working for someone else, because you have a boss who says, oh, you're good at that. Keep doing it. Here's more, here's more, here's more. And if you don't know how to say no, it's okay. But I'm also really good at it in a business because things just take off. They go crazy and you're like, yeah, let's do more of this, more of this, more of this. All of a sudden, oh, I'm miserable because I'm doing too much of this. It is what it is, right? And there are times of misery running a business. I don't mean that there isn't. My no good, very bad, horrible winter storm day last winter. It happens. You're going to have bad days. But when those bad days turn into bad weeks and bad months and you are miserable all the time, you've probably exceeded your Peter Principle and it's time to slide back a little. Make some changes, but if you can help it whatsoever, have an end goal for your business, for your side hustle, for your full-time gig, whatever it is, have that end goal in mind, know where you're heading, and then that'll help kind of formulate all the choices, good and bad, that you make to hopefully be just a little more financially free and a little more successful. And you know what? One other quick point about that, and it's a little side note, but choose the things you love. This goes back to the whole misery and happiness thing, but being successful and being free, if you're not happy, what are you doing it for, right? So if you're building a side hustle and your side hustle is cleaning out septic tanks with your bare hands, well, if that makes you happy, great. But I'll bet most people it doesn't, and that's okay too. But find what you love, find what makes you happy. If you're using the spaghetti method I talk about of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, well, make sure that what sticks is also something you really enjoy doing, okay? Because that's important. If you're not happy, you shouldn't be doing this. And if you're not happy with this side hustle you're doing, find a new one to do, or just go back to working for the man, because if you're miserable, you're not free. and you're not successful. So when you're building a business, and say it's an odd job business, or say it's computer repair, whatever it is, maybe you like working for businesses, but you don't like working for individuals. Well, work for more businesses. Or maybe the other way around. Maybe you like working for little old ladies, but you don't like working for corporations. So do what makes you happy. When you're building this business, make sure that mindset says, I want to be happier, because happiness breeds success, it breeds freedom, and that is absolutely what our plan is. And also, remember, you don't need all the customers, you just need the best customers. And that goes back to being happy as well. So of course, the Peter Principle mindset says, I need all the customers, every single friggin' customer out there. Doesn't matter, good, bad, or ugly. Nah, you don't. To being financially free, being time independent, and being successful means it's okay to say no to some customers. And remember that. Early on, it's harder, but you'll find the balance. All right. So if anybody out there has a horror story of a Peter Principle situation that's happened to you, I would love to hear about it, because I stand here and I wax eloquently about all of my piss poor performance under the Peter Principle in the past. Ooh, too many P's there. Anyway, and I would love to commiserate with some of you guys and find out where you've gone wrong before, and maybe what you've done to fix it, because that is the key. Recognizing that, I've exceeded that principle and it's time to back down and fix things. So share with me if you can. And again, if you like what I have to offer here, I love sharing it with you. Share it with other people as well. Take a minute and throw it out on social media. Do up a little post to say, oh, look how great Tim is. No, I'm just kidding. But just get out there, share my content for me, guys. That goes a long way for us building an incredible community here, and that's what I espouse to do. So thank you very much. And again, I know I tell you this once in a while, maybe not often enough, but I absolutely celebrate every single new subscriber I get to this channel, so thank you. And as always, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great